Hello, freak bitches.
When I first heard about the flat Earth theory, obviously I heard it before. My father, going back, when I was young, he told me that he was a member of the Flat Earth Society.
Your father told you that?
Yeah.
Was he joking around?
Kind of, but what he was doing it in a kind of satirical way, ironically. He was doing it because, he was saying people are too sure of themselves, and so I'm going to join the Flat Earth Society. He didn't believe the Earth was round.
So it's been around for quite a while, the Flat Earth Society.
The Flat Earth theory has been around. Obviously, thousands of years ago, people thought the Earth was round, and then slightly fewer thousand years ago, people figured out that it wasn't. It was figured out by the ancient Greeks, 3,000 years ago, that it wasn't. And by the
that it wasn't round.
That it wasn't flat. Sorry.
Oh, you fucked it up. You gave up the goose. You said thousands of years ago that people thought the Earth was round, and they realized it wasn't.
Yeah.
You just right now you've gave them fuel.
That's a quote that's going to go on YouTube.
Fucked up.
Like my "I am a shill" quote. From the last one. Strike that one.
A slight misquote.
Yeah. So yeah, what happened was science basically figured out the shape of the universe, and in the 1800s there was gentlemen scientists doing all kinds of cool things with stars, like measuring the orbits and checking out how far away things were and discovering that there were galaxies and things like that. There's all this science going on, but then there was this kind of this guy comes along called Samuel Rowbotham, who published under the name of Parallax in about 1860, and he started publishing what is basically the same as Eric Dubay's book that has been published now. Pretty much every single thing that is in Eric Dubay's current book, you will find in Samuel Rowbotham's book from 1860. And in fact, if you read Dubay's book, which I don't recommend, you will see that about 80% of the text of Eric Dubay's book is actually quotes from these books from the 1800s. It's not actually this new stuff that he's discovered. It's all stuff like, if somebody walks away from you, you will see their feet disappear first. And then he has a 2-page quote of Samuel Rowbotham saying the exact same thing from the 1860s. So it's basically recycling this theory that started in the 1860s and then just adding a few little sprinkles to it, saying that astronauts must be fake and the space station is fake.
They think that satellites are fake as well.
Yeah.
But Dubay, he's hilarious. He thinks that dinosaurs are fake, nuclear bombs are fake. I mean, there's the idea that one person would be this mastermind that discovers all these monumental frauds.
Yeah, and he I don't think he's claiming to have discovered these things. There's lots of people who think that nukes are fake, and that dinosaurs being fake is an obvious thing for creationists and people of that ilk. But he's basically recycling theories in a way that is popular to the reader and figuring out how to get them across to people. So he does these YouTube videos that are very engaging. And they sound good. Then they sound, if you don't know what's what, they sound like they make sense.
That's the problem.
And some of them are quite technical. At least they use a lot of technical terms.
Right.
But they delve into things like there's a variety of experiments. The Michelson-Morley experiment that Eddie mentioned is one of them that keeps cropping up, and then there's
which has never been reproduced. That's the experiment that supposedly
it actually has been reproduced because it's
the wrong way, not the way that they wanted to.
The Michelson-Morley experiment was an experiment to detect the luminiferous ether, which is the supposed medium through which light travels. Now, back in the 1800s, we didn't know that light was made up out of photons because light was waves. So we thought that there was this stuff that permeated all of space called the luminiferous ether. Luminiferous ether. It's a little hard to pronounce. And that this is what light traveled through as waves going through. And they didn't know exactly how it worked, but they figured there must be this stuff that permeates all of space. And then they figured that since the Earth was moving, and these scientists actually knew at the time that the Earth was moving, so they were using this as a basis for their experiment, they thought that if the Earth is moving, then they will be able to detect the ether by doing this experiment. So what they did, they set up this experiment where they shot light one direction, then they shot it in the other direction, then when it came back together, it combined. And if they were moving through the ether, or if the ether was moving through them, then the light that went one way would interfere with the light that went the other way. So that was the whole experiment, was just this thing. They shot these two light beams in two directions, And they figured, like, if we turn the table this way, it will change because we're now going through the ether in a different direction. But what happened was nothing was detected, which was kind of the start of people realizing, oh, there is no luminiferous ether permeating the universe.
But they used that to say that it's because the Earth isn't moving. That was what the flat Earth people tried to use, right?
Yeah, they did. But Michelson and Morley knew the Earth was moving.
Right.
They wanted to figure out whether the ether was moving with the Earth, or whether the Earth was moving through the ether.
Right.
So they were trying to detect the ether. So people who thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, not really so much flat earthers, people who were geocentrists, people who thought that the sun went around the Earth and all the stars went around the Earth.
There's still people like that, by the way.
Oh yeah.
There's a recent resurgence. I think it was Gavin McGinnis sent me something where some guy thinks that the Earth is the center of the universe. Essentially, he was saying that it sort of confirms everything in Genesis. I was like, what?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you need to shoehorn the whole universe into, the descriptions in Genesis, then you're probably going to have to take a few shortcuts. But yeah, there's these experiments like the Michelson-Morley experiment, but people bring them up, and they say that what they detected was no motion.
Right.
But what it actually detected was no luminiferous ether.
Right.
And because they detected no luminiferous ether, they eventually led to theories about what light actually is, which is wave particle duality. Light is photons, which act both as a wave and as a particle, and eventually to the theory of relativity.
Well, you started Metabunk when? When did you?
I think it was about 5 years ago, but I've been doing the chemtrail stuff with Contrail Science for over 10 years now. I was just looking at one of my old posts when on the satellite images. I was quite surprised at how long I've been doing it. And Metabunk been going about 5 years, and the flat Earth stuff came up maybe 2 years ago. I started to see things about flat Earth, and a bit over a year ago, I wrote a post on what should we do about debunking the flat Earth, and it basically said all these people are basically either trolling or they're crazy. So there's no point addressing either of them, and I think most of them are just trolling because no one could seriously believe this. You'd have to be
I don't think you're right. I
know. I've come to realize that I'm not. I was wrong, and that post now, it's gone down the line, but it's I've almost done a 180 from that.
It's stunning. It really is stunning.
Yeah.
And it's stunning how many people, this is why Jamie made these, youngjamie.com. You can go and get these Flat Earth shill shirts that somehow or another we're being paid to say that the Earth is round. The idea that anybody would actually believe it. I've had so many people tweet at me, I know where your checks are coming from, bro. You're a fucking sellout. I'm a sellout. Why would I give... Do you don't think that if I really thought the Earth was flat, if someone thought the Earth was flat, what a revelation that would be. What an amazing discovery. Every scientist would be clamoring to expose this. Every single scientist. The idea that all these scientists who make their name off discoveries, by the way, especially a monumental and provable discovery like the world being flat, somehow or another they would hide that. And then the big question is, why would the government say the world is flat? I mean, why would they, in any way, why would they rather hide the fact the world is flat? What motivation would anybody have to show that the world was round?